And welcome to another edition of Future Focus Worcester. I'm Ernie Floyd, right here in Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection. When we have this Future Focus Worcester program, we're very pleased and excited at the fact that the school committee members, as well as the city council members, are joining us on this particular episode because of the fact that we want to find out what's the actionable and forward thinking when it comes to urban development right here in the city of Worcester. And there's a lot of different outlets that are out there, but we as we focus here in the city of Worcester, and not only that, the city of Worcester is moving really fast right now, more so now than ever before. School is changing, the environment is changing really fast, and in some instances, we want to catch those people that are kind of sitting on the side and may not be involved. I'm encouraging them to get involved, and that's why we invited the city manager to join us today. And welcome.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Now, for the fact that we did send the questions out ahead of time, which we're sending out to everybody. And the purpose of that, we want to have a good, solid thinking in reference about these questions. And it's not about truth or dare or truth or consequences or trying to fool anybody. We're not about that stuff, but we want to get good information because people should know what's happening in their community. And that's why we're having this particular show. So let's begin with the first question, okay? Sustainable infrastructure in housing. As Worcester continues to grow, what specific initiatives are you supporting to ensure new development, including affordable housing, while also building sustainable and walkable neighborhoods?
Man, that's a loaded question, right? Because it has a lot of different elements. You know, building housing is not just as simple as just building a building and putting in the necessary additions to the building for the purposes of people to live in them. There's a lot that goes into them, right? And especially if you're talking about affordability. And so the city, one of the jobs of the city and municipality's job is to try to work with community partners, the private sector, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who build. The city, the municipality doesn't build. We don't build housing. Our job is to leverage the private developers or CDCs, community development corporations, and there's a few here in the city, and working with them to provide some direction, some incentives, whether it's tax incentives or state grants or federal grants that we can support in leveraging our resources or our support to the delegation to be able to get those resources here so they can be able to build. Because at the end of the day, building a multi family can cost millions of dollars. And that's a lot of money, right? And not every developer, or from small mom and pop shop developer to a big time developer, they don't have that kind of money laying around. They oftentimes are borrowing the money or using equity to be able to build these things. And then depending on the affordability levels that they're trying to offer in these units, they will then seek other resources, whether it's state, federal, or even local resources. Sometimes there are tax credits, etc. But here in the city of Worcester, one of the main programs that many developers rely on is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And so the Affordable Housing Trust Fund was built in 2021. And it was initially built for the purposes, again, to build affordable housing and sustain affordable housing here in the city. And it was seeded by ARPA dollars. We received a number of ARPA dollars in the city. And so we put about $15 million of ARPA dollars there so that we can spur development. So out of those $15 million, we now have been able to leverage over $380 million of development. And so that's a good return on investment. $15 million, $380 million of investment. That created over 512 units of affordable housing. It actually brought in 59 affordable rental units that we're bringing in this year alone as part of the 2025 Affordable Housing Trust Fund allocation. It's 59 affordable units. But again, we're talking about millions of dollars that is needed to be able to offset and provide these opportunities. In addition to that, one of the things that's been helpful for the city is most recently the community, the residents of Worcester, supported what is called a Community Preservation Act. They voted for it. They supported that. So there's a committee, the Community Preservation Committee, that makes decisions on how the funding is allocated for three things. One, historic preservation. Two is open space. And three is housing. And so these dollars go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to be able to develop even more. and provide dollars on an annual basis so we can develop more. And so, again, we have numbers of development projects throughout the city that we've been able to work with these private developers, utilizing these funds to create more affordability, create more housing. But that's just one element of building housing. You talk about sustainable, walkable neighborhoods. Now we need to start talking about transportation and mobility and Vision Zero and the mobility transportation plan, and how to utilize those mechanisms, those strategies to rethink the way we design our streets. Right. One of those big policies was the 25-mile-an-hour policy to reduce speed limits in the city. The other is speed humps. To how do we implement new technologies or new strategies to reduce traffic in the city? And part of that is in adding bike lanes, protected bike lanes. And I know Mill Street was a big discussion for a long time, right? Trying to be innovative and creative in finding ways to reduce traffic, encourage people to use different ways of transportation, but also at the same time put some foot traffic on the streets, which that helps to spur development. If you and I, we're just driving down the street day in and day out, and there's very likelihood that we're gonna stop store to store and frequent store to store. But if you and I are walking down the street, most likely we're gonna window shop. We're gonna see what's going on there. Maybe I go in there. Maybe I check it out.
True.
And that actually spurs development, spurs economic growth. And so we want to encourage that. And so there's a whole bunch of different ways that we're trying to create that kind of culture in this community. But it takes time. It takes years of development and activity for us to be able to get there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because of the fact that I asked a question earlier, if you just joined us, joining us now is Eric Batista, Worcester City Mayor, City Manager. Apologize for that. Sustainable infrastructure and housing. As Worcester continues to grow, what specific initiatives are you supporting to ensure new development includes affordable housing while also building sustainable and walkable neighborhoods? And that was a mouthful, and you was able to answer that. But then when we talk about affordable housing, and you talk about development, I think it kind of stays there in a sense, whereas, okay, there's a ripple effect that happens with that. As you expand, what happens? You bring in more people. As you bring in more people, that's more activity. You bring in more activity, that's more wear and tear on our structure system when it comes to water and sewer, it comes to our streets, comes to transportation, comes to housing. And also you're trying to create density right here in the city of Worcester as well. There's a lot of things that take place. As you just said, it's going to take a while for everybody to come into this new plan. And also when he says affordability, not just for the developer, but affordability when it comes to that tenant or anyone's going to occupy that unit as well. So we're going to get back to that in a little bit. And thank you for answering the first question. The second question, economic opportunity. What steps is the council taking to ensure that local, minority-owned, and small businesses directly benefit from the city's ongoing development projects?
Yeah, one of the things that we started to do, and we've been very successful. We have a good number of businesses that have been awarded and actually increased. It's making sure that we certify a diverse minority and women-owned businesses in the city, veteran-owned businesses, LGBTQIA plus businesses. We want to make sure they receive the certification, because sometimes many business owners, what they do is they want to open the business, they want to get things going. But sometimes they don't understand and the importance of certain certifications that unlock different resources, different opportunities, whether at the state level or even at the local level. Different projects require you to have a certification, an MBE, WBE certification, so that you can be able to actually move forward in the application process. In addition to that, one of the things that we've been trying to encourage in our municipal workforce is, as you're seeking new vendors for any goods and services, is there an opportunity for us to do outreach to minority women-owned businesses so that we can expand the number of vendors that we're utilizing on a day-to-day basis as municipal services? Again, if I'm going to go and get a t-shirt that's going to have some graphics on it, do I go to a typical location that I typically go to, or do I seek out a new vendor that it might be a minority or woman-owned business that you can provide them some business opportunities so that they can also be able to grow and develop here in the community? So we're trying to build that. We're trying to centralize those efforts in the municipality so that we can be able to measure against that and see, okay, how well are we moving the needle in that area? But we have programs that, whether it's microloan programs, small business grant programs, facade programs. I mean, we have a number of programs that provide actual money to these businesses to start up. One of the things that we launched this year, it was the legacy business program, and that legacy business program was really to acknowledge businesses that's been around the city for 20, 30, 40 years, right? We have a lot of mom and pop businesses that we just know, like Maria's Kitchen, right? Many of us know. We go in there, we've eaten there for
Right
so
there
many
on Main
times.
Street, of course.
Right there on Main Street, right? It's a staple in our community. And oftentimes we kind of overlook the legacies that they provide.
And we don't want to forget them.
Correct, and we don't want to forget them. So this legacy program, what it does, it acknowledges them as a business in the community. It's a nomination process that we encourage the community to support and provide some nominations. But then we create a package of what we can do as a municipality to support them, help marketing them with the media team, whether it's providing more information, whether it's acknowledging them in different areas, whatever resources that we can provide. It's something that we just started this year, and I think it's been a pretty well received. We've had hundreds of applicants, of nominated applicants, so we're putting together a committee right now to review those applications and make some decisions. But I think those are the things. Again, small business is really the staple of any local community. And you want to make sure that, one, you're supporting the development of small business, but also the retention and sustainability of these small businesses as well.
Especially the fact when they're going through a number of different challenges right now, because of the fact now, in the past, you didn't have the internet and you didn't have that type of communication in the past. Whereas right now you have the internet. A lot of people do trade their goods and services over the internet. And so that becomes a challenge if you want to create density and you want to create a walking pattern downtown Worcester, whereas people, well, I don't have to physically go there now. I could just do this over the internet like that. So that's something I'm pretty sure you guys have those conversations. How can we get people out of their houses? How can we get them away from their computer? And how can we get them downtown or any establishment, at least go there to visit those businesses and to support them?
No, and you're 100% right on it. One of the things that people underestimate is how much of an impact Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, how much of an impact that's had. Now, in a good thing, it's provided an opportunity for jobs for people in our community, right? But on the other side, on the flip side, is actually limited the number of people going out to businesses and going out to the restaurants and going out to enjoy themselves. People are more willing to stay in their homes and hang out in their homes than they are to actually going out. And so we want to see foot traffic. The remote environment has created that effect as well, where people perhaps used to have 400 or 500 people in downtown walking, right? But now they're living in their houses, they're working in their houses, and they're not coming to downtown. They're not going to lunch to go to the local restaurants, or they're not after hours. They're not hanging around to go to the local restaurants or bars. They're now in their homes and they're ordering Grubhub or Uber Eats or whatever. So that changes everything for our community. So that's why our job is to figure out and work with folks and work with developers to do some of the conversions. Right now, we have one of the largest commercial to residential conversion happening in the state, because with the old Fallon building, we're converting that into residential units, because the idea then is these buildings are going to go empty. The only way to fill them up is to make housing for people to live in it. Now, when people are living in these homes, in these homes and these units, now there's people who are living here who want to have, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a grocery store, something that they can go to, because now this is my neighborhood. Right. I live here. And that's where we now need to work with businesses and developers to bring that kind of activity.
And I think in a sense that it can work the opposite way now, because if you're downtown and you revert that Fallon building into housing, you have the Shacks building, you have other different buildings right along Main Street. That's when the case where they're not going to sit in that building or that dwelling the entire time. Now they want to get out and get some air, walk down the street and say, okay, I want to see some people right now.
Yes. So, and now it brings back those businesses.
Now it brings back to the side. So joining us now is Eric Batista. He's the city manager right here in the city of Worcester. And I'm Ernie Floyd. You listen to Future Focus Worcester. We're going to continue the discussion on how we're moving the city forward right here in the city of Worcester in central Massachusetts, right here on Unity Radio, Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Unity Radio. Worcester, we've got you.
Hey, what's up, Worcester? It is Jacqueline Carr, and I'm inviting you to be inspired with me each weekday morning starting at 5 a.m. with the Jacqueline Carr Show on Unity Radio. I'll get you going with the motivating words, special guests, and the absolute best inspirational music, and a few other surprises. But you got to tune in to Unity Radio every day at 5 a.m. to get your praise on. It's the Jacqueline Carr Show from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. right here on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection, and also streaming on WUTY.org.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, host of Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9. Black in Business is a series of conversations with influential members of the Black business community. These entrepreneurs knows what it means to risk everything to create successful businesses and spark positive changes in the community. So join us. Again, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, right here on Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Support for Unity Radio 97.9 FM is provided by United Way of Central Mass, aiming to improve the community and break the cycle of poverty, and the Woosocks Foundation, seeking to make dreams come true for families in areas of education, social justice, recreation, and conquering cancer. Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
Activa la radio y Unity Radio 97.9 FM te invitan a escuchar el bloque latino todos los sábados de 7 de la mañana hasta la 1 de la tarde por los 97.9 FM en la ciudad de Worcester.
This is Unity Radio 97.9 Worcester.
And welcome back to Future Focus Worcester. I'm Ernie Floyd, right here in Future Focus Worcester. We're talking about progressing and moving forward, actionable and sustainable ideas in reference to forward thinking when it comes to urban development right here in the city of Worcester. And Eric Batista is joining us. He's the city manager here in the city of Worcester. Welcome once again. And I asked you a question earlier, and I bring it back again. Sustainable infrastructure and housing. And then the next question was economic opportunity. We finished off on that one. So I just want to continue a little bit on the economic opportunity. What I asked you was, what steps is the council taking to ensure that local minority-owned and small businesses directly benefit from the city's ongoing development projects? I can recall back in the day, I'm on back in the day guy. You have a vending department, I believe, for businesses where if you want to become a city vendor, I believe, if you still have that, and if you meet the procurements, you can become a city vendor. Can you
Yes.
explain a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, it's our purchasing department. So
Yes.
anybody right now in the city, if you have a good or a service that you think you could provide to a municipality, we encourage you to become a vendor for the city. It's a simple process that you can, it's literally a simple paperwork that people can sign up. And what it is, we will then issue you a vendor number. But then you become a vendor for the city. And so anytime we needed a good and services, we can always look at our vendors, and then we can decide, what good or service you provide, and ask you to either provide a quote or what have you to provide that good or service. So it's a very easy process. We highly encourage anybody that has provided goods or services to get involved and to do that. That allows us, again, like I said, to be able to select local businesses, and many do that already. Many already participate. It's through our purchasing department. They're the ones who do all the bidding. They're the ones who do all the work. But again, any work that any municipal department needs to do that's $10,000 or less does not require to go out to bid. We can simply request a quote from that vendor and then be able to contract that vendor to do the goods and services for the city.
How exciting is that? Where someone, going back to what you just said, urban development, small business wants to get off the track and move their way up. working with the city of Worcester when it comes to that. And once again, it's one more thing that a small business doesn't have to jump through those hoops. It could be paper goods, copying, it could be printing, it could be pencils and pens and other different supplies. Name a couple of supplies oriented things that people can benefit from the vending program in the city of Worcester.
Yeah, there's so many things that we as a municipality on a day-to-day, even whether it's we may be hosting an event and where you need a sandwich platter, right? Or we are getting shirts for a department that has the logo, city logo, and it says inspectors on the back or something. It could be, it could be paper. It could be any type of marketing potentially if we would need some marketing. It could be landscaping work. It runs the gamut of the number of goods and services that we contract on a day-to-day basis for. It could be furniture. We're buying furniture. People may need to.
When I was thinking of it, and I was familiar with the plan, with the program, I thought it was just paper supplies or pens and pencils.
It could be anything.
I didn't realize it expanded into furniture.
It could be
landscaping for that.
Yeah, it can be landscaping, anything, any type of good or service that you're providing the municipality. Now, some of these projects are much bigger, right? So if you're doing a landscaping work at Green Hill Park or et cetera, right? Oftentimes we have our own staff that do that, but often we also see contractors. That's a big contract. And so because it's a big contract, you got to go through a bidding process. And then the city has to select the lowest bidder. And so, but if there's anything under $10,000, oftentimes it's just simply the department selecting or getting a quote from that business. Sometimes they get 2 or 3 quotes from different businesses just to compare, and then they just make the decision on what business they want to go with.
All right. I know the city of Worcester does a lot of activities at City Hall when it comes to shows and programs like that. If it's a City Hall based show, I guess Unity Radio will put the bid in. If it's under $10,000, we'll put $999.99 and see if we can get the bid. And we'll MC an event. Just kidding. Anyway. Okay, our third question is community. And when it comes to community and the transit connectivity, looking ahead, how can we better connect our neighborhoods to downtown, biotech, and educational hubs through improved public transportation and cycling infrastructure, which comes back to what you said earlier when it came to Mill Street?
Yeah, no, that's an area that, again, the thing about Worcester, right, that in comparison to other cities, for example, like in New York, New York in some ways is a planned city. That's why you have such a perfect, not a perfect, but a good enough grid that you can see the grid of New York. Worcester is not a planned city. So you got streets all over the place. One way going this way, another one way going that way, this street going that way, ends in nowhere. And so it's a lot of kind of interlocking network that we have. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at the network and we're trying to see how do we improve the infrastructure. But the infrastructure is not just the road itself. You talked about it earlier. It's the water system, the sewer system. It's everything underneath. It's the lighting. It's the sidewalks. There's a lot of new regulations now that anytime you touch a street, you need to do ADA improvements. You need to look at bike lanes. You need to think about potentially added protected bike lanes or expanded crosswalk rather than just your 3 feet sidewalks. You're not doing 5 or 10 feet sidewalks. Because again, what you want to do is you also need to think about street trees, grass strips. All those things are important because depending on how you build and you design and engineer that infrastructure, can lend itself to a better, safe environment. If you don't engineer it the right way, it can lead for an individual feeling unsafe as they walk down the street. And that's why it's important that we do our job and we start to work in that area. And that's why we have so many mobile action plans. We have the transportation and mobility action plan. We have the Vision Zero. We have the complete streets policy. And that was the emphasis of why we established the Department of Transportation and Mobility, and to give that ability for them to take a step back, redesign our streets, think about the streets in a way that provides a better network. We had bike lanes that just went to nowhere, and we still do, right? We want to make sure eventually these bike lanes are connected, so you provide a bike lane network in the city. Same thing comes with the WRTA. If you don't have a good infrastructure, WRTA is not going to be as successful. So all of it is in tandem. All of it is connected. And so we need to make sure that as we design our roads and as we build our roads, they're taking all of these things in consideration so that we can provide better mobility for our residents in our community in a way that connecting them, like you said, to downtown, because yes, we want people, neighborhoods to be vibrant, but at the end of the day, most folks are going to go to downtown for the nightlife, right? Local neighborhood might have a local coffee shop, might have a local Subway shop, etc., or local pizza shop or whatever it may be, and that's accessible to that neighborhood at any point in time. And you want those things for a vibrant neighborhood. But if you want to create a nightlife of entertainment, theater district, DCU center, etc., downtown is typically where most folks go to, and you want to provide that network, not only coming into downtown, but also how do you get back home from downtown. And so that's an area that we need to improve, and that's an area that I think we've been able to identify that we need to put some effort in. And that's why we've started with these design plans and these kind of long-term thinking plans that will hopefully guide the way we build and we put our money and our resources so that we can get there. It's just going to take time, because building a street it's not overnight. It takes sometimes time, sometimes two construction cycles for us to be able to get that done. So, but that's the direction that we're going.
I can recall when sidewalks were like flat off at the edge, and you just step down off of it onto the street and go into the next sidewalk and step right up. Back then, I didn't understand how and why they started cutting the curbs and start leveling it. It took me a while to figure out that, oh, wow, society's changing, mobility's changing, and it's for everything. It's for the wheelchairs and everything else that deals with, that rolls with that, And so
even the sometimes, you
get the little pads now.
The little yellow pads. That's
that was after. What's that for?
Yeah, well, if you're blind and you have your cane, you can't see. That indicates to you that, hey, you're approaching a road. So all those things are extremely important for the ADA community, but also it just makes a community safer.
Right, and so that's why you hear the horn of the street lights at the same time.
Absolutely.
At the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned transportation. Now they're working on WRTA. Not only are they expanding outside Worcester and going to the neighboring towns like Leicester of that nature, but also they may be creating a loop too as well, so that you can stay within the city. And also they're looking at expanding the hours for the RTA. Before, the working hours from 8 to 5 and probably maybe shut down at 6, allow people to get home. But now, because of the nightlife, and depending upon what you're looking to expand the city of Worcester, you may want to expand that bus service to 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock, depending upon the mobility and or the activity that's taking place downtown, especially you mentioned the DCU center.
Yeah, because, what good is it if you take the bus to either a Polo Park game or your DCU center, and then nighttime comes around,
you can't get home.
You can't get home, and now you got to get an Uber or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to have that activity and those RTA buses be able to be around. I think under the new leadership of Josh Rickman, he's been trying to think differently and apply different strategies to not only brand and market, but also put new signage. And there's a lot more that's going to come from that. He's extremely invested in trying to find creative ways that we can enhance our RTA system. One of the good things is that because of the fair share for the riders here in the community, that actually has increased the volume of people utilizing the system, the RTA. So we want to see that. We want to see people utilizing it more, using it to work, using it for their appointments, etc. And we've seen that. We've seen an increase on that. So now is how do we work with the RTA in not only enhancing the RTA, expanding the work that the RTA does, but also what do we do as a municipality to build that infrastructure for that actual mobility moving forward?
And lastly, you have, because of the fact that you cut Front Street and you bent it over where the M&T Bank is now. Before, you couldn't cut through Front Street to go over to Grand Union Station.
Yes.
And now you have in reference to that. So if people are interested in finding out more developments that's taking place in the city of Worcester, where should they go?
Yeah, they should go to our website, worcesterma.gov. That's we try to include everything there as much as possible. Every single page, from economic development to Department of Public Works, the Department of Transportation and Mobility, you can see all the work, all the planning and design that they're doing with our infrastructure. This is the season for construction. So this is the season that we're going into construction. There's going to be a lot of pavement programs. There are going to be a lot of areas where we're going to improve our infrastructure. We're trying to deal with the potholes right now, but some of the areas where we see a lot of potholes, those are areas that are slated for complete new streets. Some of the areas that we're going to do brand new streets, we gotta do water and sewer infrastructure first before then we top it off and do the street. So that's why sometimes these projects, it takes multiple construction seasons for us to be able to get through them. But there's going to be a lot of activity over the next year or two in these areas. We're putting a lot of effort and resources behind it because we know this is extremely important for our community. So people not only can get across the city, but also feel safe as they walk around and drive in our community.
Well, future of Worcester is looking pretty bright, looking pretty good. Eric Batista is joining us. He's the Worcester City Manager. Thank you for joining us here on
Thank
Future
you,
Focus
appreciate
Worcester.
it.
I appreciate that. Once again, contact City Hall if you want to find out for more information. And at the same time, we were talking about actionable and forward thinking when it comes to urban development right here in the city of Worcester. Once again, Future Focus Worcester. We're going to come right back here more on Unity Radio, on Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Mr. Telephone Man, there's something wrong with my line. What's up, Worcester? I'm Angela Gray, and you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection. When I dial my baby's number, I get a click every time.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Q, host of the Woo 508, and I'm here with
Your girl Liza, Miss Consistency.
And it's your girl Chantel in the building.
yes, y'all. Go ahead and follow us everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. The Woo 508. That's THEWOO 508. Woo!
Roll me a skin, roll me a bone, step into the groove, now you're in the zone.
Recreation Worcester is a free year-round program for youth run by the City of Worcester. The program enriches this city's youth in athletics, arts, academics, and social-emotional learning activities. Food is provided for free of charge for all youth participating in the program. Learn more at the Worcester Recreation website, www.worcesterma.gov/recreation-worcester. That's www.worcesterma.gov/recreation-worcester.
We are Lions International, the world's largest service organization. We are volunteers committed to strengthening our communities and supporting those in need, one act of kindness at a time. For more than a century, Lions have been serving a world in need, right here in our community and around the world. Lions International makes the impossible possible. This is your invitation to join us, because the only thing missing from our mission to make a difference is you. Visit lionsclubs.org to find a local Lions Club near you.
Tune into The Sustaining Life with Susan Hewlett, and together we will find our way to a healthier, healing lifestyle by listening to empowering stories of overcoming our struggles. Join me, Susan Hewlett, on The Sustaining Life every Wednesday from 5 to 6 on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. See you soon.
You're listening to Unity 97.9 FM, WUTY. Let's talk, Worcester.
Hey, welcome back to Future Focus Worcester. I'm Ernie Floyd. Future Focus Worcester is right here on Unity Radio, where we talk about actionable and forward thinking when it comes to education, when it comes to government. And joining us now is Joe Petty. He's our mayor right here in the city of Worcester. Joe Petty, welcome to Future Focus Worcester. Always good to see you.
Good to see you, Ernie, and glad to be here today.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
You're always doing something.
I am always doing something. And you always seem to be catching me every time I'm always doing something. Can't get away from you.
I like your new digs.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate
It's
that.
big.
What do you think?
You got both sides of this?
Yeah, we got a little bit of something here. Yeah, you have to come back again. How's that?
Well, you just moved in. Didn't
Yeah,
you?
there you go. Yeah, we got a lot of different things going on in reference to our partnership here in the city of Worcester with other different, with the local college, I'll say Quinsigamond Community College. We also work on our young people too as well. We have a show called Youth Unity. We're bringing that back. So don't be surprised if one of our young people come over to City Hall and interview you and visit you over there, ask you a series of questions about how City Hall works.
Okay, what about for the elderly? For me, do you have an elderly program?
Yeah, we have an elderly program. It's called Elderly or Bust. You can come and join us though. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here on Future Focus Worcester. We got a couple of questions for you. As I mentioned earlier, we put the questions out in advance because we don't want this. It's not a situation where we got you. You know, we want people to think about the questions in reference to, it's really for the people to understand and know what's going on, because the city of Worcester is moving really fast, faster now than before. As you know, education-wise, you know, that's going to occupy a lot of your time in the next couple of years because of the fact they're realigning the city of Worcester when it comes to education. So I'm involved with that. Full disclosure, I'm a wraparound coordinator at
Are you serious?
At Thorndike Road School.
What school?
At Thorndike Road School.
What a great school.
Yeah.
Nice neighborhood school.
Yeah, and very nice neighborhood. Very involved community as well.
The whole Bronco when you build that new junior and high school.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, but I got several questions for you. Let's see. Infrastructure and capacity. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, there he is. All right. As Worcester continues to grow, how is the school committee planning to adapt school infrastructure and staffing to support the influx of new families over the next 5 years?
Well, we're working at that right now. We have a lot of, as you said, we probably have 1,200 units in the works right now on the table. And we're doing a couple things. One, trying to project how many students we'll have. It's going the other way, unfortunately. It has gone down a little bit.
I heard that. I don't know how that is.
A lot of the communities have dropped larger than we have. I think what's happened is think people have, ever since this new initiative by the federal government in
Mhm.
immigration, a lot of
Oh,
people picked
I
up
see
and
what you're
left.
saying.
And regardless if they were here properly, or someone in their family wasn't.
I'm sorry, I didn't take that into
I didn't get any
consideration.
stats in that. I just heard the anecdotally, but I think that's part of it. And people aren't having big families like they used to.
Mhm.
And
That's part of it.
projections
It's
have been-
expensive.
yeah, and we've done pretty well. People coming into the city. We have this. We've increased our population up to 215,000 people now.
Mhm.
When I first got into council, I think we're at 180 or maybe even lower than that.
And you were back and
once
forth with
56
Providence. Providence would take it in one consensus.
Yeah, they fixed the
and,
books
and
once.
then
I'm
all of a
only
sudden
kidding.
Worcester would take it, and then Worcester got it back, and now you're just blowing it out of the water, being the second largest city.
Yeah,
in
we're still a
Massachusetts.
growing city where
Oh, yeah?
other communities have gone backwards.
Yeah.
So it's something we're definitely looking at. We're looking at also redistricting the schools. We have maps right now. We just started the process. I think at South High School 2 weeks ago, 2 Mondays ago. It might have been last Monday, where we're come up with a plan how we're going to reorganize the school districts and whether or not we're going to redistrict certain streets to another school, because we have been over. Some of our schools are over capacity, and some are under. So how are you going to balance that out?
Is that a ripple effect because of just put it out there, because of the immigration situation, because that population was growing really fast, and now obviously it's growing a little decline in that population because
it could be
because it's
I
self-explanatory
haven't
what's
got
going
any
on.
actual facts on that, but it'd be an interesting question
Mhm.
to try to get
Yeah.
answers to.
Well, you had to eliminate a 6th grade at a particular school, Rice Square. In
Well,
particular.
we didn't eliminate it. We moved it.
You moved it from. Yeah, you moved it. I don't mean. I don't mean that you wiped them out, but you did. You had to move them to another location.
Yeah, we were working
that's
in
a prime
that.
example right there of overcrowding.
Yes, that school was definitely overcrowded, and from Rice Square, and I know we've been working that for over a year. We implemented that at the beginning of the school year and late last year, and it's working out pretty well. East Middle is the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade now, and see how it works, and maybe we can, who knows, do it at other schools if it's possible.
Well, it doesn't stop there, as you know. 'Cause you just mentioned the realignment. There's a number of meetings taking place. You just had one in South High.
Yeah, so I was talking. Yep.
Doherty's going to have one. They're going to do the whole circuit. They're going to go to all the different schools. North is
Try to
gonna
get
have as
some
well.
input by November. We should be voting on this.
Yeah.
Their plan, and just see. If you're a parent, we get a balance. You got to balance what the needs of the school district are, what the students' needs are, based on educators too, what we have in the system, and balance that against. You're a parent, you send your kid to a school, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to such and such a grammar school, junior high, and high school, and all of a sudden you're not.
Right.
And that kid's been with that group for.
Well, that's one of the parents are going to be concerned about, because they're living across the street and they're going through the cycle of going to one school to another. And now going in the future, you may live across the street, but one may be going to south and one may be going to north, as an example,
But
depending upon where the school lines in the boundary,
And the superintendent's been very clear on that, and the school committee is that we're going to try to give, we said at the beginning, exemptions, for people.
Okay.
And try to look at that, see if we can fit it. We're not promising anything, but but we're trying to. That's going to be part of the plan. You don't want to create havoc.
Which leads into our next question: future ready education. What specific initiatives are being prioritized to ensure Worcester Public Schools students are prepared for the city's evolving economic landscape, particularly in the fields such as biotech and technology?
Right. We're looking at partnering with the chamber on certain things, and in the schools and the college universities and the technical high school, looking to see, what programs should we be investing in the future that match up to what employers want.
Mhm.
So we're talking to employers all the time. So we're building, what's important too is we're building new schools. Since the turn of the century, every high school will be done.
Mhm.
Once we get Bronco up and running, and we're trying to match vocational programs in those schools. Doherty has several vocational programs. South does too. And Bronco has them now, but it'll probably expand once we get that school up and running in 5 or 6 years from now. So that's something that we're going to be looking at. We're also looking at how we work with Salmon Community College, automotive, and both of those aspects, and making sure that we're prepared for the future when it comes to changing career paths, changing technologies, and looking at all different things. Looking at AI, how that's going to impact positively and negatively.
Mhm.
It's a lot of concern. A lot of people, have concerns with
Of course.
AI, with even the cell phones and the kids being on the phones, and the impact on their stability, really, as far as cell phones usages and how to use that.
If it was up to me, bring back uniforms and hold off on them cell phones. Put them in a locker
You know,
and
so-
lock them up. But when we come back, we'll finish. Hold that thought. When we come back, I can easily say that. You can't say that.
But it's
When
interesting.
we come
We're
back,
gonna
we'll
come
let
back to that
we're
one.
gonna come back
Okay.
with that one. I want you to think about that one. Future Focus Worcester, right here on Unity Radio. I'm Ernie Floyd, and joining us is our honorable mayor right here in the city of Worcester, Joseph Petty. And we're going to come back and talk about the actual steps and also an infrastructure when it comes to our school department right here in the city of Worcester. And I'm Ernie Floyd. You listen to Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.
Unity Radio. Worcester, we got you.
Support for Unity Radio 97.9 FM is provided by Ruth H. and Warren A. Ellsworth Foundation, established in 1964, focusing on education, social services, and youth aid, and the Mildred H. McAvoy Foundation, giving primarily to health, educational, cultural, and human service organization. Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
Unity Radio is streaming at WTY979fm.org. We'd like to thank our listeners and supporters.
Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. Recruit, retain, incubate. WorcesterChamber.org. And the Worcester Bravehearts baseball team. WorcesterBravehearts.com.
Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
What's up, Central Mass? This is Angelo Gray, and we want to thank you for all your support. And you're listening to Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
And once again, you listen to Future Focus Worcester on Unity Radio. I'm Ernie Floyd on Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection. And we have the Honorable Mayor, City of Worcester, Joseph Petty. And we're talking about how the infrastructure and talking about education is forward thinking on the City of Worcester. And they were gracious enough to come in and have this discussion. And I think it's important that Unity Radio gets out the word because of the fact that Mayor Petty, the city is moving so fast when it comes to education. It's moving so fast when it comes to the government. And you can't be on the side. You got to jump into the current and go with it.
And if you look at our scores, I think they're going in the right direction. Not big leaps, but I think with previous superintendent Monterez, now with Brian Allen,
of course,
that they're still using the master plan and going forward with what we developed and
from the previous superintendent.
Yeah, and Brian's following up on that, meeting with people in the community on a regular basis, trying to dig those walls and bring them down a little bit and making sure people have access to the superintendent.
I think you're doing a great job because I'm in the school system and I see the different meetings and the different occasions where they're inviting the community to come in, and parents need to know what's happening beyond those doors. And I'm a self-serve, being the fact I'm in the Burncoat area. Paul Hernandez, who's at the middle school over at Burncoat, had the opportunity to take a situation and create it so that this education department in the Burncoat area was to visit Great Brook Valley, and Alex Corellis, who's the president over there, the director of the Valley, opened his doors so that it's nice that they get this education institution to come into Great Brook Valley, and then Great Brook Valley gets to meet them in a different light too as well, because the majority of those kids in that area attend those schools.
And Alex is doing a great job. He's building the library up there, and that'll be open pretty soon, I believe. And the new housing projects they have going there. So a lot going on in that neighborhood with the Burncoat High School being done. Hopefully, was it 2026 now? Probably 2031, 2032. 2032, that school will be
Will
open.
you be around? You
Of
mean on
course.
there? Okay. All right. I'll be there right there with you. How's that? I'll cut the ribbon with you. Okay. How's that?
We'll see. We'll see on that
Okay.
one.
All right. So I asked you a couple of questions. If you just joined us, this Future Focus was I'm Ernie Floyd, and I'm tongue in cheeking with the mayor of the city of Worcester right here. And infrastructure and capacity as Worcester continues to grow. How is the school committee planning to adapt the school infrastructure and staffing to support the influx of new families over the next 5 years?
Yeah.
And we're also talking about the future ready education. What specific initiatives are being prioritized to ensure Worcester Public Schools students are prepared for the city's evolving economic landscape, particularly in fields such as biotech and technology? And we'll finish off on that one because of the fact that Worcester Tech and its long days in the old location may have been frowned upon in some different instances because, oh, it must be nice that kids go to a trade on one week and then education the other week. But then when you built the new Worcester Technical High School, and then all of a sudden the mindset changed, and then it became a long line of people trying to get in. But then when they weren't, they got so long that they would outage that, and so now you had to take some of those trades and spread it amongst Doherty and South and North as well.
Yeah, and it's just the time to be in the trades. Like if you want to be an electrician or plumber, there's not enough of those workers out there. So, in all the different trades, and now the unions are working hard to get people trained into their unions. So this
in the city of Worcester experiencing that too, right? They're looking for people, right?
Oh my word, we can't find a lot of positions go unfilled,
Mhm.
and so if people in DPW especially, you could see some of the ramifications of that after these winter storms.
Mhm.
So there's a lot going on. If people are interested, there's a lot of job opportunity out there.
Right.
You
So
look
if
at the look at the trades.
Sure.
And it's a different like you can't put in certain programs in the high school. So I couldn't do if you want to be an electrician, a plumber, et cetera, certainly those top rated programs, you can't, not to say the rest aren't top rated, but you can't transfer that into another school. You have to do these special programs like
Of course.
Doherty.
Mhm.
Doherty, when there's this construction, you have at South High, you have the tractor trailer, it's got the
The diesel over
the
at
diesel,
South.
the diesel,
Mhm.
and also culinary they have there.
Mhm.
But I couldn't take the electrical program or the
Oh, you can't
plumbing
duplicate
program.
it, right?
You can't duplicate those programs because there's like 5 or 6 programs you can't duplicate at the high schools. So something like our dream was to do, it still is sort of, is to make Burncoat a lot of technical programs in the art school.
They do
So-
very good in arts. The dance team is very
we
good.
want that focus
The
on
performance
arts.
program is very good.
And when it comes open, and along with the Burncoat Junior, Burncoat Middle School, and to make sure that that arts program really we're invested heavily into that. Those kids are they're all. It's amazing how talented these kids are in
Right.
high schools.
They just won recently. Just won a national award over there, at Burncoat. The dancers there.
Oh, the dance, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's like 2 or 3 years in a row. But,
Yeah. So they're saying something over there. Community engagement, our third question. How can community members, particularly those listening to Unity Radio right here, for example, get more involved in shaping the future of district policy and the long-term vision for Worcester schools?
I think so. What's the saying? Those who show up.
It's true.
And it's because we listen. The school committee listens, the city council listens. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree,
Mhm.
but some people come with some great ideas. If I give you one, for instance, was Doherty High School. We're building Doherty High School. One of the comments was, how do you make it more energy efficient? Why don't you use heat pumps? I looked at Augustus after I said, can we just get an answer to that question? Like, we put heat pumps in after that one person brought it to our attention. And so that school's pretty energy efficient. We have solar panels up at Nelson Place School. So we try and make all these schools energy efficient when we build them.
And as you make it energy efficient, it comes with grants and it comes with money and it comes with support too. Why not do that to adopt that school? Because in some instances, you cannot rebuild that school. You can do some renovating in there, and you can only do it to a certain capacity. Of course, like a lot of our older schools here, you're adding elevators in now, you're updating the data, you're updating the electrical, you're updating the plumbing in some instances like
That's
that.
what I started doing at East Meadow a little bit with the windows. We get half the windows in, the other half are going after the school year.
Mhm.
And so that would be done over time.
Yeah. So the community engagement part. So I'm gonna go back to the beginning just to do a refresher for us. And thank you for joining us once again. Joseph Petty, the Worcester City Mayor, is joining us here on Future Focus Worcester. I'm Ernie Floyd, and the infrastructure and capacity as Worcester continues to grow. How is the school committee planning to adopt school infrastructure and staffing to support the influx of new families over the next 5 years? You answered that. Future ready education. What specific initiatives are being prioritized to ensure Worcester Public Schools students are prepared for the city's evolving economic landscape, particularly in the fields such as biotech and technology? We reference Worcester Tech and also spreading the programs around to the other schools, which you can't duplicate. In community engagement, our kind of community members, particularly right here, listen to Unity Radio, get more involved in shaping the future of district policy and a long-term vision for Worcester schools. Prime example is basically the realignment of the schools. You have a number of different meetings at South.
Yep.
You have a number of different meetings come up at Doherty, and it's going to go on. And when is the decision going to be made for this realignment?
Around November.
Around November
So
of this year? Okay.
Yeah, will come out, at least the report and the vote certainly after that. But I think the final vote will be the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. So it's very important, the people that get involved. And as you, as the leader of the free world here when it comes to education, okay, not only you're the mayor of the city of Worcester, but you also lead the school committee. So people are saying, why is he here for the school committee? Yeah, well, you lead the school committee as well. And tell us how people can get in contact with you if they have any educational problems.
Yeah, you can contact my office, phone call 508-799-1153 or mayor@worcesterma.gov. Like I was at South High, and you listen to some of the parents and their concerns, and some of the things you just don't think of until someone brings it up.
Right.
And so we do listen. There was good points made, and the consultant we've hired will take those all into consideration as they go and meet more parents at different schools as the next several months.
That's the nature of the meeting, is to involve the community, to have them engaged, because you're not there to have the answers for everybody, of course, naturally.
Yeah.
You're there to support the community, of course. You lead the community, but at the same time, the people who live in those communities have something to say, and at the same time, it's shared with you, and you guys come together, you collaborate, and say, you know something, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, working with the people.
Because sometimes you just don't think of everything until you hear someone say it, and you go, oh, I should have thought of that, and I didn't. And so it's important that people show up and just talk about your concerns, or maybe not even just concerns, but how you can make things better.
All right. When it comes to the school committee, lastly, it's at large, and you have your districts, right? For those who may not know.
Yeah, we have 2 at large and 6 district school
district
members. That's been for the last 2 elections, anyways.
Okay. And they had to change that into that format due to the fact that
there was a lawsuit that was brought forth about more district representation and more diversity on the school committee, and so we went from 6 at large to 2 at large and 6 district. I'm not sure if it's worked out.
That was my next question. Is it working?
I don't think it's worked out what people thought it would work out to be, but it will.
But it's the law.
It's the law.
And that's what they wanted.
Yeah,
to give the people what
we
they
saw
want.
a compromise back then with the federal judge, and the judge made very clear that we should do something. I know some people disagree with that. We should have kept it the way it was, but I think if you can create diversity and get more people interested, it's worth a shot. It will happen over time, anyways.
Well, as was said earlier, it's just going to take time. Thank you, Joseph Petty, Worcester Mayor, right here at the city of Worcester. Thank you for joining me on Future Focus Worcester.
Is this it?
This is it.
What do you mean?
Yeah, you got to come back
fast.
again. Yeah, you got to come back again.
No, I'll be back. It was a good show. I wish you well, Ernie. You're doing a good job. You've great. This whole Unity Radio. You've been at this for how many years?
A number of years.
Yeah.
More than a district number. How's that?
I want to thank you for the invite. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yep.
As usual. Once again, Joe Petty or Joseph Petty, depending on what district you come from, what part of the city, is joining us here on Future Focus Worcester. I'm Ernie Floyd, and this has been Unity 979, Worcester's Community Connection.